So today we're covering part 3, and we're going to start getting a little bit more interesting on what we're doing about this intuitive goal setting, how we're going to set this goal that your intuition is going to just automatically direct yourself to. All right, so today we are going to be going backwards. We're going to be going back to a very precious memory that we hold, and I'll talk you through that a little bit. But I just want to cover the first 2 days, the first 2 parts that we can recap, just to give you a little overview of what we've been doing. So, I mean, the first part was really just an introduction, but the second part was really understanding those blocks and those feelings that rise up inside our bodies, like from the neck down, those feelings that rise up inside us that just tells us something's, it's not quite right. It's just not quite right. And it's really, really important that we pay attention to those. It's really, really important. So I just wanted to recap on that, because if something does come up when we're doing these exercises, then you need to kind of question what that might be causing it, so that we can kind of navigate around those blocks. Because the great thing about this exercise is that we're not having to analyze what's wrong with us. We're not having to say, oh my goodness, I've got this block and I don't know what it is. We're going to work around it. And that's why I love this so much. But first of all, one of the problems I mentioned in part 1 is that people don't connect enough with their vision or their goal that they've set themselves, because they don't know how to. And I think it's fair enough to say that if you've never experienced, making $10,000 online in a month, you're not really going to know how that feels. You're going to know it's going to feel pretty good, but you can't really connect to it in an emotional way. And this is why we have to go back to the past. And we need to go back and find what I would call a gold standard memory, or just a perfect memory that you have. And for me, I have a couple that I always go back to, where I can just kind of go in, and because we're going to take that emotion, and in tomorrow's episode we're going to be placing that into our goal. But right now I want you to try and come up with a memory that makes you feel happy, joyful, that you've achieved something, that you've done something amazing. And it doesn't really matter what it is. It could be passing your driving test. It could be that you're really happy that you grew up a prize carrot or something. For me, I have a couple of memories. Hi, Kristen. Great to have you with us. I have a couple of memories, and one of the most poignant is actually holding, doesn't really matter which one, but my sons for the first time after I'd given birth to them. And I just remember the immense amount of love, because all the pain of childbirth just melts away in that moment, doesn't it? And you just look at your baby for the first time. And I think this will go for a dad as well. And it's just this perfect love that comes up for you. And so that is one for me. But I also have a slightly obscure one, and this is going back to when I was about 18 years old. And I remember I was out in a field and I was walking with my dogs, and I just remember that the sun was really bright and it was shining, and I just had this moment of complete euphoria. It was like completely connected, and I hadn't been drinking, I hadn't been taking drugs. It was just total connectedness. It was this complete love feeling that engulfed me, and I remember it so clearly to this day. And that for me is another really easy one, that I can just take that emotion. Now, when we are looking back at a memory, sometimes there might be things that were around that memory that weren't so good. For example, with my first son, without giving too much information, but I had to have stitches, and that wasn't terribly pleasant. But, I don't even really think about that, because I just looked at my baby, and it was a beautiful, perfect moment. And that's what I'm asking you to think about today. But what I want you to do, because we're in preparation for what we're doing for tomorrow, is actually capturing, and it is a moment. It's not the whole, birth drama and everything else, or whatever moment you choose, it is literally that moment. And I want you to write down the feeling and the emotion that you felt in that memory. And when you think back on it now and it just fills you, you get this glow inside of you, and this beautiful joy and love that just engulfs you. And that's what we are trying to capture. And when you capture that, try and put, I don't know, a color to it or something. It kind of just adds a little bit of symbolism. For me, it's kind of that beautiful golden radiant light. With any of my sort of gold standard memories or perfect memories, it just seems to, the room just seems to fill with this beautiful golden light. Although, you know, that didn't actually happen in my head. That's how it's represented, this feeling, this perfect bliss moment. So I'm really hoping that you can think of one of those moments, and it can be anything. It doesn't have to be to do with children. It could be with your dog or your puppy, or you know, maybe you had some great exam results once, or like I say, you passed your driving test, or you know, whatever that moment was, a celebratory moment, something that just fills you with joy, and you know that you can go straight back. You literally snap back into it when you think of that memory and you think of that moment. And I want you to write down that moment. So for me, it'd be I'm holding my baby boy for the first time in my arms, and for me, particularly my firstborn, I didn't think I was going to be able to have children because I had multiple miscarriages leading up to having Jamie. And just looking at him, it was this complete awe and amazement and love and bliss that I felt just in that moment. And that's what we're capturing today. And this is so, so important, because we need to remember this feeling. You need to really understand this feeling, and that's why I'm saying write it down. If there feels any kind of negativity around that in any way or form, or something else that happened, even if you write that down, then just strike it through. Okay, we're getting rid of it. It doesn't exist, and we are just literally creating this perfect memory, which I'm sure we can all draw on. So that is your task for today, is just to find that perfect memory and write down what you remember about it, and assign some kind of color, or you know, maybe it's a vision, or it might be a symbol or something like that. For me, it was like this radiant golden glow that always comes up, and something will come up. You'll see that. You'll think, oh yeah, I have actually got this thing that kind of, you know, it wasn't there, but it's in my memory. That's how I remember it better. That's how it makes it more clear and more vivid to me, because that's important, because that's what we will be moving forward into our vision. And that's why we get this much greater connection with this particular kind of goal setting. Because when you attach the emotion, your brain starts to go, oh, because your subconscious doesn't know the difference. And it starts to go, oh, this is real. This is a real thing that's happening. So that's your task for today. And that's it. So have fun with it. Enjoy it. You know, really think about the moment, you know, some special moments in your life, and enjoy that and play with it a little bit.